2016 or 2015, my sister Cynthia, my oldest sister, she went missing, and I had just got out of prison in 2000, I think 2014, and I had already made the decision to change my life. I dropped out of the gang. I dropped out of the prison gang. So it was new grounds for me, and then I came from California back to Arizona, and when I got here, I I got my little sister, my mom, my cousin, my girlfriend, got them all to get baptized.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working on my older sister Cindy. I'm the only boy. I got three sisters. I got one younger and two older sisters, and all of us we all grew up in the lifestyle. And we were working on my oldest sister. My oldest sister, she was beautiful. She was beautiful. She was on her ex husband. Oh, he's a co-owner of a lowrider magazine out of Fontana, California.
Mm-hmm.
He's a co-owner of our co-founder of Duke's Car Club, and he had a lowrider magazine called Low Company. And the way he got my sister is he was um, passing through Parker, and he came to the casino, and she came home one day all happy, saying, "Hey, guess what? I met this guy, and he's gonna put me on the cover of a magazine." And us being from the streets, I was looking at my sister, and I was like, "You really? You fell for that?"
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were smarter than that, and it turned out to be true. You really was putting her on the cover of a magazine. But around 2014, I came back to Parker, and my sister went missing. She called my little sister one day and asked for a ride from upriver. And like I said, my sister's beautiful. She was a drug addict. She was hooked on crystal meth. She bounced from house to house. She was homeless by choice.
Mm-hmm.
The lifestyle was just too fast, so she liked running around. And she was beautiful. She was really beautiful, and she had a lot of guys that would just jump for her. So when she called for asking for a ride, she my little sister called me and asked me if I can go get her. And then I said I couldn't. And so my little sister said, "All right, I'm going to go get her then." And then a couple minutes later, my older sister called and said, "That's all right. I found a ride. Someone's coming to get me," which isn't unusual because, like I said, guys jump for her. I mean, she was babied.
Mm-hmm.
She would have guys, if she wanted a bag of ice, she'd have like two or three guys that would run out and go get it for her, cigarettes, all that stuff. And so it wasn't nothing out of the, you know what I mean? It wasn't nothing that was out of the normal that somebody went up there and got her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was working at a Pizza Hut, and my little sister calls me one night and tells me that she's worried about my sister Cindy because rumors are going around that they found the body in the canal.
Mm-hmm.
And she's scared it was my sister. And my little sister, she's the glue that holds the family together. She's the one that worries about all of us. She's always calling and checking on everybody. And so she's always at, she's always at high alert. And she went to college. At the time, she was a probation clerk. And she called me and told me, she was worried, she was scared, and she told me about, there's rumors of a body that was found in a canal down in the valley. Well, I asked her at first, "Where did you hear this from? Where did the rumors come from?" And she said it came from my other sister who heard it at an NA meeting. And so I started laughing it off, and I was like, what does a bunch of tweakers and drunks know about? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I told consider the source. But because it's my baby sister, and I heard that she was scared, to put her mind at ease, after I got off of work, which was around 10, 11 o'clock, I went to the tribal police and I filed a missing persons report.
Mm-hmm.
I went in there and You could tell that the dispatch officer, people were going in there. I earlier in the night I started. I knew it was serious because my coworkers, their family members were coming in, pulling them out of the kitchen and asking them, "Hey, check on your auntie, check on your sister." So now at this time, those rumors were just now they're really out there, and everybody was checking on their loved ones. And so after work, I went and, like I said, I went to the dispatcher, and the dispatcher already acted like you could tell that there was quite a few reports filed. I walked in and I said I'm here to file a missing persons report on my older sister, and he kind of had the attitude like I was kind of wasting his time, which was fine with me because you know I would prefer it that I was wasting his time. So as he's laughing it off and I'm laughing it off, I'm turning around to walk out, and I turn around and I say, "Oh yeah, there's one, there's one characteristic about my sister that, identifying marker is a couple years back. I tattooed some Korean writing on her arm that said, trust no man." And when I said that, his face changed, and then he took the information. And then he gave me a number and told me that the FBI will be getting involved, will be contacting me. So stay by the phone. And I was just thinking that this was just, normal procedure, that everyone that went there that day probably got the same card and everything. On the next day, I was on the California side because we live on the Colorado River. One side's California, one side's Arizona. Me and my wife were on the California side, and I got a flat tire, and then I got a call from the FBI, and they want to know where my mom's at, if they could speak with her. And I gave them the address and the location of where they could find my mom. Now, me and my little sister, we didn't tell my mom anything about the rumors because we didn't know. We didn't want to worry my mom. So she had absolutely no clue of what was going on. And I just gave the FBI the location of where she's at. And so it dawns on me. And we blew a flat tire, and my wife's niece came out to help us, and my wife's niece's girlfriend was a volunteer firefighter at the time. And so she had a little bit more information about the body. And she mentioned something about the girl being pulled out, and it just I knew something bad was going to happen. So rather than get my tire changed, they drove me straight to my mom's house. I tried to beat the FBI because I have to soften the blow for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I was too late. About time we got to the Indian projects, I seen that there was already tribal police and there was FBI cars already all pulled in the front of the house. I got out of the car and I can already hear my mom crying, "Not my baby." And at the same time, on my way over there, I called my little sister and I told her, "Hey, go to mom's real quick." I said, because the FBI is going over there. And my little sister started panicking. Why did they want to talk to mom? And so she started crying. So when I pulled up, my little sister pulled up seconds behind me. I walked in the door, and the cop had a picture, and my mom was already crying. And so he showed me the picture, and I looked, and it was my sister. And I know my little sister. My little sister, she's emotional, and I knew that it would haunt her if she's seen it. So when they went to go show her the picture, I grabbed the picture and I held it down and I told my little sister, "Don't look at it. It's her." And I felt helpless. Like I said, I'm an ex-drug dealer. I'm an ex-gang member, and at that moment, I didn't know what to do. My mom and everybody was broken and crying. I'm the only boy, And my first instinct is I want to go kick in someone's door. So when the FBI and the tribal police were leaving, I followed them out, and I asked them, what are you going to do next? And they told me go inside and go mourn with your family. And I said, I don't want to go mourn. I don't want to go inside. I want to go get these guys. But I didn't know how. Mm. So we all spent the night over here. It's like tradition. If somebody passes away, like the community, the tribal community, they'll come drop off, food, so cases of water and soda, because they know you're hurting. Mm-hmm. They know nobody's gonna get up and cook dinner, so they, the tribe, they come together and they make dinner, and everyone started coming and dropping food off. So I stayed with my mom that night. Mm-hmm. And that night I got on my knees and I was begging God, show me, help me. If I'm honorable, will you bring my sister? Will you bring my family justice? Will you bring my sister justice? I didn't know what to do. We all spent the night that night, and the next morning I got up. Like I said, I felt lost. I didn't know what to do. I mean, how does an ex-drug dealer, ex-gangbanger ask the community for help? The same community that I helped destroy. But I got up that next morning and I asked my little sister, how much money you got? She says, I got 1,000. I asked my wife, how much money do you have? She says, I got 1,000. Oh, I got a couple of cars that I could sell for 1,000 a piece, so that's a start. So we put out a reward. And we got pictures of her, and we printed out reward signs, and the first reward flyers were for 5,000, and it had my number, my cell number on there. And we went everywhere. We took the Facebook, we went upriver, downriver, any place that would allow us to post a picture of my sister in their window, because we knew that time was valuable. We posted it everywhere, and you think going into these restaurants upriver that's off the reservation, you think that the store owners would, they wouldn't want to hear the story, or they wouldn't want me to upset their customers. But I would go into the stores or the restaurants, and I would ask, I say, is the manager here? And I'd show them a picture of my sister. I said, this is my sister. I said, they just pulled her body out of a canal, and she was duct taped. She was duct taped with her arms bound behind her, and someone threw her in a canal like garbage. And I said, "There's a SORNA officer that's investigating it, and a SORNA officer is a sex offender registration officer, and so it led us to believe that she was sexually assaulted." And so as I'm telling the managers this, he's listening, and the customers start coming up and their little crowds start building. And I'm telling them, this is my sister and somebody did something bad to her. And right now there's killers walking around and we got to get them. And the managers, they said, yes, we'll put in our window. And then a lot of the community members they were saying, we hope you catch them before the police do. So the community right off the back, they got involved and they started supporting. We went to all the bars, all the restaurants, all the gas stations. The FBI came the next day and the tribal police, and they said, we understand that you're handing out reward flyers, and they said you can't put your number on it. All the information's got to come to us. So we changed it. And then we were called down to the tribal office, and then the tribes said that they're going to add another 5,000, and that they're taking the bill. So now it's up to 10,000. And again, they told us to go home and let the FBI do their job, and the tribal police. And we couldn't, as a family. This is our sister. And we could, there's no way where we're going to not get involved. The more they told us to be quiet, the more louder we got. We went to the radio stations. We went on social media. online yard sales, any platform that would allow you to upload a picture. We sent friend requests. We asked to join groups in Needles, in Blythe, all the surrounding areas, and her picture went everywhere. We went to the radio station, the Christian radio station, and then a little bit after that, we were on ABC News, Tri Valley News. My little sister paid for them to run her picture in the Blythe newspaper. We just got louder and louder and louder, and the community they were all behind us. And over here, I'm pretty sure it's like, every reservation, but there's just a conflict between tribal and non-tribal all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And here we had the community that was rooting for us of non-tribal. And the louder we got, is like the tribes, a lot of tribal members, they didn't like it. A lot of them had their, we learned in our journey that the people you think that will be behind you are not, and the ones that you think wouldn't help you are the ones standing solid right beside you. A lot of tribal members don't like us airing out our laundry for non-tribals to hear. Mm-hmm. But we had a lot of support, and I made it clear that this isn't a tribal or non-tribal thing. This is a murder thing. Mm-hmm. We're all neighbors, and it's not just my sister that's in danger, it's everybody. And we ended up getting her out there, and then we started organizing a community march. So I started one morning, I woke up and I just had it burning in me to call these numbers. I got on my iPad and I started pulling up numbers from Banning for the tribes and everything, and I called them and I told them, I said, "Can you help me? My sister was murdered." And they said, "Well, how do you want us to help?" And I would tell them like I'm telling you about my sister, and then every tribe would connect me with their advocate or a different department, and they would listen. And so we came up with the community march, the first community march, and everybody wanted to march against drugs, because back in 2016, methamphetamine was just crazy. A lot of people were dying. Mm-hmm. I mean, way before that too, but nobody has taken a stand yet. And there was a tribal member here named Darren Fisher, and he had a vision that he wanted to march on a certain street here in Parker for his daughter, because his daughter was hooked on drugs. And so they got that idea, and they connected him together, and they said, "Why don't we do this? Why don't we march through town, and instead of saying against drugs, let's use your sister as the face of it, and we'll call it not our ways. Let her be the last, not her way." And so we printed out like maybe 300 shirts with my sister's picture on it, and I went around, and my wife took me to all the churches in town, most of them, and I would knock on the door and I would ask them, "Can you help us? Can you march with us? And I invite you." A lot of the churches, they slammed the door in my face. One of them gave me a lecture about how they've been trying to raise that alarm for years, and nobody listened. And good luck with our march. Mm-hmm. And me myself, I believe in the Bible. Mm-hmm. I believe in the Bible. I'm baptized. I changed my life. I gave my life to Christ. So when I had Christian churches slam the door in my face and give me lectures and stuff, like I said, it's the people you think that would stand behind you are the ones that abandoned you. But we had to give everybody the opportunity to stand with us. So we went everywhere. The first march, we made it open to the community. All our marches are, and we had it where we marched from Walmart all the way to our casino, And then when they got to our casino, we had speakers that were scheduled to speak. But that morning, it was scary. I had knots in my stomach because, you know, we there was a lot of victim bashing. I mean, there's so much victim bashing on my sister that the newspaper had to run a story because everybody was saying my sister was first they were saying it was a cartel hit, then they say she was a snitch. I started getting all kinds of messages on social media asking me if is it true they chainsawed her to pieces, that they saw her. I heard that they had her mouth sewn shut because she's a snitch, all kinds of stuff. And I also had people creating fake accounts and giving me all the information about my sister's dealer, their name, because the way she was murdered, even the criminal world wanted her killers caught. So they would create fake accounts, and a lot of them would speak to me, but they wouldn't speak to the FBI or the cops because they're still part of the criminal world. So I would get a lot of fake accounts, and they would give me all the information, who her dealer was in Blythe, where he lives, phone numbers, all that stuff, and I would forward them to the FBI. There was just so much going around. They had to print a story saying that she wasn't a police informant or anything. It was like we would get 5 steps forward, and a lot of the negativity, a lot of victim bashing, a lot of tribal members were saying she got what she deserved. I don't know why they would say that, but a lot of them did. A lot of them basically saying, "Suck it up," because any chance I got, I'll be putting it out there about her killers and about catching them. And a lot of older tribal members were saying that you're mad because you feel you killed her. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of people saying a lot of bad stuff, and there's a lot of victim bashing. But we had our march, and so that first march, it was scary because I didn't know if anybody cared. Like I said, I'm an ex-drug dealer. I mean, I've done a lot of bad stuff on this reservation in this town. I didn't know if I don't even know if I deserved to even ask for help. But on the first march, it was scary because we ordered 300 shirts. What if like 10 people show up? I mean, what if nobody? And that was the scariest thing, is that a lot of people were saying she got what she deserved and nobody cares. You know, what if they were right? You know, what if we went through all this trouble and nobody showed up to the march? So I showed up early. Because, you know, like I said, I had knots in my stomach. I seen the women that were out there standing next to the boxes of T-shirts ready to hand out to the marchers. And there was like maybe 1 or 2 people out there. And so we drove to the casino to get into the buses that were used to give the marchers a shuttle ride. And we waited for about 20 minutes and nobody showed up. So we just got on these buses, and there's only like maybe 5, 6 people in the buses. And so they shuttled us back to Walmart to where the march was to begin. And as we're coming up the hill and making it to the parking lot, I mean, when I had just left there 20 minutes ago, there was like 5 people. And when we came over the hill, and it was like a sea of red, there was like 300-400 people there. Man, there was marchers from Banning, marchers from Yuma, marchers from Needles, Chemehuevi Valley, from Peach Springs. The Victory Outreach in Blythe, California, sent van loads of their people. Cocopa sent a van load of their people. I mean, the first march was everybody, all the surrounding areas on the Colorado River, expressing and saying all together that they're sick and tired of it, that they all came to fight. it was a big march, and it was a big event, and we sat there like, if only my sister could look down and see her parade. It was everywhere. I mean, they covered it on the newspaper. It was really something. And we took a picture of everyone together down at the casino where we finally met up at the amphitheater where they had the booths and everything. And one of the women that were in that picture, her name was Shaggy. You know, she would later on we'd be marching for her, but she was in the first picture. And after the march, I mean, we could feel her spirit. We could just feel the power of everyone together. It was powerful. And at the time, I was on parole in California, and they allowed me to stay in Arizona because of what happened to my sister. But after the march, I had to go stay in Victorville because I had to be in California while I was awaiting my my interstate compact and to finish up my parole and to be sent to Arizona to see if Arizona will accept me. So while I was in Victorville, I'm gonna say about maybe 6 to 7 months later, my little sister called me and she was happy. She said that the FBI just called, that before anybody we hear from anybody else, they wanted to let us know that they're executing 2 warrants. They're executing 2 warrants for the murders of my sister. And because the community was so behind us, I told the community that everything that happens in my sister's case, that I was going to stay in contact with everybody. So everybody was following. And so when they announced that they were executing the warrants, I went on social media and I posted a picture of my sister, and I just put one word. I just put victory on it. And when I uploaded it, everybody was, asking, did they catch him? Did they catch him? And it was self-explanatory because that morning, the FBI and the tribal police, they all surrounded a housing project, and they surrounded it. So everybody put 2 and 2 together, and the community celebrated together. And when they found out who it was even disgusting, because one of the rumors that were going around was that it was an inside job, that the police had something to do with it. And well, it was a man named Jeffrey Scott and a woman named Sharon Clark. Sharon Clark, I guess, used to be a dispatcher. And what had happened was, I guess my sister owed $500 to this guy Jeffrey, and this guy was trying to, like I said, my sister's beautiful, and he had took her out to Bullhead. He would tell her that, hey, we're going on this big old drug run. We're gonna be driving this truck. It's gonna be loaded down with meth, and he would tell her that and take her out to like Bullhead and all that stuff, rent a motel room in the hopes of sleeping with her, and she'd always reject his advances at her. And so he was always giving her dope, and she ran up a $500 bill with him. And then the girl involved was jealous. I guess she liked the guy. So you put those 2 together, and they end up murdering my sister. And the way they murdered her was, they tortured her. When we got to see her body, they shaved the top of her head, almost like they scalped her, but they shaved it with just regular clippers. They shaved her. They stabbed her 17 times. When we looked at her, her face was swollen. Her head was shaved. And when my mom and my little sister saw her, they said a woman did this. They knew. They said a woman did this, and I couldn't understand why was her head shaved. So I started asking the FBI, is that like a war society initiation? Have you ever heard of something like that? Is this like an initiation thing? Why did they shave her head? And then when we went to the sentencing, we got to hear everything else that happened to her and why they did it. What they did was they zip tied her hands behind her back. They beat her up. They stabbed her 17 times. They shaved her head. The woman got a black marker and drew all over her breast. They wrapped her in plastic and they threw her in a canal. And she survived her stabbing. She survived the beating. And she finally drowned. And so, when we went to court, in order to try to get lower sentences, they turned on each other. The guy accepted responsibility. He kept calling my sister his friend. I can't believe I did this to my friend, my friend, my friend. They went before Judge Cynthia, and she got mad, and she stopped him from saying that. She didn't want. And what the woman said was that she didn't know. She thought that my sister was dead because at some point my sister was pleading for her life, saying, "I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop doing drugs. I was gonna do this, and I had plans to get clean." And the woman said, "I didn't want to hear that BS anymore, so I put tape on her mouth, and she was trying to talk, and I didn't want to hear it. And after a while, she just went quiet. So I figured she was dead." The guy, he tried to get out of it by saying, "Well, I was just trying to scare her. I didn't mean for her to roll into the canal. We put her on the side in hopes to scare her. We didn't know she was gonna roll in there." And I got mad and I said, "For one, my sister was raped years ago. She was raped, and she tried to tell her boyfriend she was raped. And I guess he gave her the impression that he didn't believe her. So when he called the police got there, and when she was trying to tell the police what had happened to her, the police kept questioning my sister, like almost in a condescending way to her. My sister felt that they didn't believe her. So while her boyfriend and the cop were talking to my sister, she grabbed a kitchen knife and she cut her arm because she thought that they didn't believe her. And when she cut her arm, she severed her tendons to her hand. And so they took her to the hospital. They stitched her up, and she never went to physical therapy. So her hand was stuck in like a claw. And so in reality, she only had one hand. And I told the judge that in court. I told her killer, I said, "You guys are cowards. She had one hand, and you had to do all this to her? For $500, you couldn't knock on my door and ask me for the money? For $500. And then I told the guy, if you would have just told the truth was more kinder than what your freaking lie. You threw her in the canal, and she drowned. You want us to believe that you were trying to scare her, that you wrapped her in plastic and you left her on the side of the canal. So now you're telling us that your true intentions were to let her cook to death? Well, at least with her drowning, she didn't have to go through that." But I spoke on my sister's behalf, and I told them, in the Bible it says that somebody's done you wrong, to tell them of the wrongs of what they did. And so I got up there and I told them that I'm speaking on behalf of my sister, despite all the things that you guys did to her, I know my sister, and if I'm speaking on her behalf, I have to speak on her behalf. The first things out of her mouth would be, because she always does this, just forgive him. She had a bad habit of calling everybody her friends. That's my friend. This is my friend. And we used to always tell her, you know what I mean? Some of these guys that she's hanging around, like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Be careful. And she always said, well, he's my friend. He did this and that for me. He does this for me. So in court, I told him, you know, what you did to my sister was wicked and wrong. But she would want us to forgive you because she would still say you're her friend. And that's when the judge got it. You know, the judge said her piece and said, I can't believe through all this, you guys still call her your friend. And you did all this, and she gave him the max 25. We could have pressed for the death penalty because of the torturing, but we had a meeting as a family, and we took the death penalty off the table because we didn't want to become killers ourselves. So we agreed with prosecution to get them for second degree, and they both received second degree, and they both got 25 to life. They're both gonna die in prison. And after that, when we came out of the courtroom, the news was waiting outside, and we gave an interview. And we came home, and we relayed all the information to the community, and we could have just took our victory, and you know what I mean, and went home and just kept to ourselves. But a few months later, I get a call in the middle of the night, and it's another family asking me, how did you do that? Can you help us? How did you do that for your sister? We need help. And they started giving me details about their missing cousin. And when they were giving me the details of it, I started reliving my sister's event all over again. And it wasn't a question. I want to, and I'm gonna help these people. There's no, after going through the battle that we did for my sister, there's no backing out of it. This is for life. We're going to help everybody that needs help, because the pain and the obstacles we overcame, the ugliness of people slamming the doors in our face, you don't wish that on nobody. So I quit. When they were telling me that they were searching on the river because her iPhone was being tracked to the river, they found it at the river. And she's been missing for a couple of weeks. They tried to file a missing persons report on her, but they said she was too old and that maybe she doesn't want to be found. But the family knew. Their family is close. They're real close, and they always check in with each other. So they knew something was wrong. The police here kept refusing to make to file a missing persons report. So I told them to do that. We did the same steps as we did for my sister. They blew up social media, went to the newspaper, the news, everything. And they ended up finding her about 3 weeks later in a shallow grave in the valley. Her eyes were missing. Half her hand was gone. She was in a shallow grave, and the place that they found her it's difficult to get there. You have to travel on multiple dirt roads that lead along the canals, that lead smaller canals. I mean, it takes effort to get out there. Mm-hmm. And the police ruled in an overdose. And we're like, what? So let me get this straight. Someone could have an overdose, dig their own grave, a shallow one, and crawl in it. And, you know, at the time, the tribal police had an acting chief. And so that's what they had ruled her death as. And the family they refused. They refused to accept it. So the next year, not even the next year, but about a little less than a year from when my sister had her march, the second march we did, and we came up with the name Stand Strong Together, meaning the two families standing together and the community standing together. And that march was labeled Stand Strong Together. And so we helped that family. It's the Yazzie family. We both organized the second march, and that one was just as big as the first one. And the police closed that case, and they labeled it a overdose. And this is going on almost 7-8 years later, that the police still ain't gave a police report to the family about her. And her name was Shaggy Molina Yazzie, and during my sister's picture for the newspaper, you could see Shaggy in that picture. And you never think the next year we were marching for her, we put her face on this march. We did it for 200 people on 200 shirts. Her face was put on there, and we ran out of shirts. There was more marchers there, and what we do is we start at the casino marquee, and we march to Western Park, a park in the middle of town here. So when we get done marching, we have speakers. We have free food. We have speakers. We have Des Lewis come down, and he performs a couple songs. And we have awareness booths and everything. And so by us marching, other organizations end up asking us to go out there and to speak. We were invited up to Paula to march in a prayer march. Project 911 out in California, in Thermal, California. Me and my wife took part in that. And it's aimed at the I guess the Indian schools out there on Torres Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
It's for teen suicide prevention. I've been asked to go out to Crossroads Mission in Yuma. I've been doing this for probably about, I think, 4 years now, where I go out there and speak about gang prevention and drugs and alcohol prevention. Just give a testimony. Well, we've been to Mesa Community College in Spogue. We went to the national unidentified people's conference up in Las Vegas, and I got to share my sister's story in front of over 300 FBI, BIA training cops. I sat on a board of consultants for Operation Lady Justice during the pandemic as a consultant for the first for the handbook. And another young sister went missing around here. They found her. She was homeless. They found her in a shallow grave in town. In town, there's we got our main streets, and then behind the railroad tracks it's desert. And they found her. Somebody beat her and tried to hide her under some bushes. And they found her. Her name was Rosie Romero. And same thing. We helped the family get the word out there, taking the same steps. Then just it's coming on 2 years now, but December of 2022, my cousin Albert, he was walking along First Avenue here, and he was gunned down. They found him. They caught his murderer. His murderer was caught, and they granted him a bail for $3,000, or they asked for $3,000, but the judge did it for $4,000 on criminal homicide. And he ended up winning his trial, but the reason they arrested this guy is because he went home that night. My cousin was murdered at night, probably in the early morning hours. He was murdered, and this guy went home and told his son, "Daddy's going to be going away for a long time because I just killed somebody." The son went to school, repeated it what his dad said. The teachers overheard and called the police. So his dad, he admitted to it. Earlier in that month, my cousin and him had problems. This guy, his name was Rusty. They had problems, and they ended up shooting at each other. My cousin shot this guy in the shoulder because they were chasing him through the desert. He shot into where the headlights of a truck were, because the truck was chasing him in the desert. They got out of the truck and they started chasing him, and so he pulled out a gun and he shot blindly into the lights. He ended up striking Rusty in the shoulder. Rusty went to the hospital, told the police that, hey, this guy Albert, he shot me. Albert is my cousin. He shot me. Well, and then this was like November 17th, and my cousin was murdered December 19th, I believe. And so they were going back and forth, and my cousin went to CPS and told the CPS officer that he's in fear for his life because this guy's going to kill him. My aunt kept calling the police because this guy Rusty lives directly across the street from my aunt, and every time they would be drinking, my aunt would get nervous because she knew they were going to go after her son, my cousin. And so she would call dispatch and said that she wants a health and welfare check because she has a bad feeling something's going to happen. Dispatcher said something, it's going to turn out bad for one of these two. So when they finally found my cousin shot dead on the side of the road, they went straight after this guy Rusty. They found the bullet casings. They the housing office had him on camera going to the spot where my cousin was killed. Multiple ring cameras, has his truck moving. There was even one camera in the trailer park that had sound. And the truck passed, and seconds later, you hear the gunshots. But it didn't actually show the muzzle flash coming from the truck. And because of that, and because of our tribal law, they don't test for gunshot residue. When they caught Rusty, he wasn't at home. He was hiding at his mom's house, and his mom called the police and said, my son's here. So they went over there to talk to him. They asked him for his gun. They went to the local gun store, and the local gun store said, yeah, we sold him an Econo AR-15 and this type of bullets to go with it. Well, those bullet casings were the exact same kind they found at the site and at the scene. So they have everything. They have the gun. When the police asked Rusty for his gun, he just simply said, no, I'm not giving it to you. And that was it. The police never pushed for it. They never got a warrant to go look for it. They just left it as that. So because they didn't find the gun, because the camera didn't show the muzzle flash coming from his car, he was found not guilty at trial. Not enough evidence. Even though he had a confession, they let him go. He right now he lives right across the street from my aunt. My aunt got to look at him every day, and that just happened. Like I said, less than 2 years ago, and we have a reward out for information. Matter of fact, on social media, my cousin was murdered around 1 a.m. And they didn't discover his identity till maybe 7, 8 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning when his body was finally found. And in between that time, there was a screenshot of people already celebrating, saying that my dog Rusty out of jail. You know, it was self-defense, and we got those screenshots and we gave them to the FBI, and we told them, look, before he was even identified, these people were already celebrating that my cousin was killed. You know, it's like, well, how has no arrest been made by the FBI? And they keep telling us that because they have to have solid evidence, because they only get one shot at it, and if they mess up, then that's it. They can't file again. So in the meanwhile, you're gonna let this guy who just murdered my cousin live across the street from my aunt? So this because the trial that we went to, it was only on it happened on the reservation. So it was the tribal court, and even if they found him guilty of criminal homicide, he was only going to do a year, and he was already in jail for about 8 months. So he would only be in there for another couple of months. But they still found him not guilty, and he walked out. And it's frustrating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was my cousin Albert. Then we have another sister here, and her story is heartbreaking. She had a son who's about 20 years old, and his name is Rudy. And she's a tribal member. She's a tribal member, and her ex was this old gangbanger Pitero from Bakersfield. So all his family's from Bakersfield, California. So Rudy, he grew up right here on the reservation as a enrolled member and everything. And you know, his aunt from Bakersfield called and asked and said, hey, can he come over to Bakersfield and spend time with the family? And so the mom's like, all right. So she told the son, you're going to go out there, be careful. And she told him, you know, it's not the reservation over there. Be careful. And he's like, I'll be all right, Mom. I'll be all right. You know, this is my dad's family. This is my family. And so he went out there. He went out to Bakersfield, and he was basically executed. They got an actual video footage from a gas station of him, a car pulling up, him walking up to the car, and his body dropping. What had happened was, from what they're saying in Bakersfield, is that it was a case of mistaken identity, that he was mistaken for a gangbanger from Bakersfield. So a car pulls up, the girls call him over to the car. He walks up to the car, leans in to, you know, see who's in there, and they just shot him. That the bullet passed through his spinal cord. His body just dropped. He didn't even know he's dead. And his mom, it was about a week later, he laid in the morgue. His family from Bakersfield that asked for him to go over there, they started looking for him, like, hey, he ain't come home yet. And you would think, like, okay, I'm from Los Banos, and I come from, you know, where I'm from is from a bad side of town. It's where the projects are. If I have a family member that's coming from Arizona to Los Banos, I'm gonna tell him, you know, like, hey, kick it around here, you know, don't go out here, right? These are bad places. You know what I mean? You're gonna give him the rundown, the layout of the whole area. Don't be over here. This part belongs to so and so. You know what I mean? You're gonna keep some kind of eye on him. His family didn't. You know, a couple of days go by, and they're just like, his body was laying in the morgue, until finally, about 6 days later, they go to the morgue. They positively identify his body, and his mom is back here, home here on the reservation. She thinks he's over there having a good time eating his family. And then she was the last one to know. The whole family up there knew that he was gone, and then they finally called her and told her that, you know, he's gone. She was broken. When I talked to her, because she used to be at all our events, and she used to support us. Then they finally told me, they're like, hey, how come how come you don't add Rudy to to our flyers and stuff? And I said, why? What happened? They said, he's an MMIP too. And so I got a hold of the mom, and she said, I've always supported you guys. I never thought of it. She goes, I never thought of it. She goes, and I never even try to go and see where the investigation's going because it's not going to bring my son back. I guess what the family is saying in Bakersfield is that the cartel sent someone over to the grandma's house to tell them we're sorry, we made a mistake, it was a mistaken identity, don't go to the police, those involved have been dealt with. First thing in my mind was that don't even sound right. I said the cartels, they're known for putting kids in barrels and stuff. They're not gonna say they're sorry. Local gang politics will do something like that. But the family pretty much told the mom, don't kick up any dust or draw any attention because you'll put us in danger, because we've already agreed with the criminal organization out here that we're not going to pursue any murder charges. And so if she was to go out to Bakersfield and if she was to post signs for her son, his other half of his family would sit there out of fear and say, oh, she's crazy. So she's like, what's the use? You know what I mean? And when I told her about the MMIP, she said, I just never looked at him that way. She goes, I just kept, hold his memory close to me. And I told her, that the MMU unit, they have authority to go off the reservation and to investigate. And so she's pursuing that and finally getting justice for her son, but she's still in a state of mind of that it still doesn't bring him back, and she doesn't want to get into a family fight with, with his other half. She just rather just not even deal with them, but just keep her son's memory. So those are some of the stories from Parker, and there's more, but there's a lot of traditionalists around here that they won't speak the name or show a picture for a year after their family members are gone, and so it's kind of hard to help, to help people or to send them in a direction to where they can meet with advocates from Phoenix or somewhere to help them with their family's case, because they're not willing to break their tradition.